Today I want to talk a little bit about Richard Wright's The Man Who Was Almost a Man. I love Richard Wright. I love his writing. And I highly recommend, if you haven't read, he wrote a story or a novel called Black Boy. And it was the first introduction I'd had to him as an author. And it's a story that I still think about regularly. I highly recommend it. But talking about The Man Who's Almost a Man, I want to talk about, as with every story, there are many ways to go about discussing thematic elements or plot or summary or kind of post-colonial readings. Today I just want to focus on one thing, and this idea of what is manhood. And in this story, I think Wright is carefully inspecting this idea of what it means to be a man, or what is seen to be indicative of being a man. And think about this. Think about our time now, here in the modern times. That what do we see as being a true man? Is it strength? Is it physical prowess? Sexual prowess? Is it the ability to make a lot of money, to have nice things, to provide for one's family? That there are many different definitions of this idea of manhood. And there's a certain amount of freedom that we have now in redefining what it means to be a man, to take back this definition, to create the definition of manhood for ourselves. But what I want to talk about in this story is that do we see Dave with these same opportunities that we imagine ourselves as having to define manhood? And what is the symbolism of the gun in the story? Is this Dave's symbolism of manhood? We see Dave refer to himself as a boy in the beginning of the story. That the people in the fields won't call him a boy anymore, is what he hopes. That his mother refers to him as a boy. His father says, boy, come here. That he's referred to as boy, boy, boy throughout the story. So we see this kind of definition being pressed upon Dave day in and day out. And we see it as something that he himself is identifying with his own, personality or his own relationship to the world, the status of being a boy. So we see Dave in searching for a way to achieve this manhood, but contextualized within this time period. And I've linked under my playlist, I've linked a short video about this time period, about Richard Wright's life. You should really take a look at it. It's fantastic. But within this time period, what options do Dave have? What does he have in terms of becoming a man, of taking manhood? He's obviously strong. He works in the field. He has the ability to do hard work, which is kind of a physical attribute. What we would think of being a man, making money, supporting oneself to a certain extent. In these ways, he is a man, but yet he's still societally treated as a boy. So what recourse does Dave have? And in his mind, what he sees as this idea of manhood and power is the idea of a gun. And in his choice of choosing a gun, do we see this kind of reflection of what society allows from him? Society does not allow him the opportunity to make enough money to support his family. He makes $2 a month. I don't care what year you're from. That is not enough. And yet he works fully as a man would work. So society has taken away that option. Does he have the ability of a true freedom that a white man would have, especially a white man of a higher social status would have at this time, that most of us enjoy as just citizens of the United States to a certain extent? Of course, there are many different kind of social factors that play into that we are not all equally treated, obviously. But in general, I believe that most of us have more opportunity, certainly, than Dave does, but obviously not equal opportunities. Society is not fair. And I think that's what Wright is getting at in the story. So Dave chooses this symbol of manhood, a way in which he can claim manhood and that is authentic to him, the way that he can show that I am a man. I am here. I am no longer a boy. I am a full-grown man. And in doing so, he chooses a gun. And in choosing the gun, he creates this situation for himself that is going to force him to make this step at the end of the story when we see him hopping the train that I would like to examine. Is that the defining moment of either Dave becoming a man or remaining a boy? But back to the idea of the gun one more time. So I think we clearly see this idea of the gun as the symbol of manhood, and the gun obviously has the power of death. The gun has the power of forcing others to bend to your will, which is this idea of power, the same thing that money grants us now, this idea to take power over one another through control. Obviously without a gun, we still see this idea of a gun as this forceful kind of thing as taking control. But allowing someone to fully develop into this autonomous being beyond society's ability to control, or that is the hope, that is the aspiration of Dave. And I believe that we can see a lot of that in ourselves. Who does not wish to become a fully actualized man or woman above this kind of ability for society to kind of control us or to hold us back or to place these limits on us? So it's a feeling that we all feel. So Dave takes the gun, and Richard Wright does something here that I believe a lot of people overlook. And what he does is, when Dave goes into the field, he takes the gun, right, and he closes his eyes, and he's out there with the mule already, right? And if you read the story carefully, look back and see, you'll see that Dave walks, it says 20 feet away from the mule. Now, a mule is a big animal. My uncle has mules, and they're very large. 20 feet away, and then closes his eyes and fires the gun. Now, I think it takes a large stretch of the imagination to believe that you could be 20 feet from something. 20 feet. Just imagine now, stepping off 1 foot in front of the other, 20 feet from where in the room you are right now. That's not very far at all. It's not even 10 yards on a football field. I mean, it's very, very close. And so Dave points this gun supposedly at random, right? But obviously he has to know where the mule is, right? The mule is only 20 feet away. If he was not wanting to shoot the mule, or if he was not somewhere subconsciously wanting to force this issue, right, to present his manhood to the town, even if on a subconscious level, it's difficult for me to believe that he wouldn't have at least fired in the opposite direction. And the case can be made that the mule moved or something like that, but in my mind, I find it difficult to believe that Richard Wright didn't intend some sort of symbolism here. But again, this is open to interpretation. So 20 feet away, fires this gun, kills the mule, and immediately hides from the responsibility. And in hiding from the responsibility, there becomes this idea, is this the act of a boy, or is this the act of a man? And this is what becomes very difficult in my mind to parse out. And I'm going to discuss this a little bit more in the next video because I'm running out of time.